a cloudy spirituality, a wish. No, it's an engagement. It's a life-transforming engagement. And that's what we are committed to. And I got involved into this work with all my heart and my conviction after I retired from the diocese as a preaching the gospel, as an evangelist, preaching the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ, and preaching the gospel and engaging the gospel. But I realized that what Jesus intended to do, what God wants us to do in our own versions of religion, is to redeem people. Whether you are a Christian, whether you are a Muslim, whether you are a Hindu, whether you are a Buddhist, whether whatever form of religion, God wants to use us together for the redemption of the world. Yes. So I encourage you to engage what you have in a vision. Go for it and succeed. Let me tell you, and allow me to say this when I'm standing, from your backgrounds, if Rwanda can come from the genocide and destruction and get where we are today and have the energy to know that if we did what we did to this day, we can do better tomorrow. Yes. I want to take a few minutes again to appeal to you as friends, as brothers and sisters, as human beings. He told me that tomorrow you are going to visit the memorial of the genocide in Kigali. It's a moment which will appeal to your emotions, and please be prepared. You are going to see how the genocide was prepared, planned. As you know, genocides do not strike like thunder. They prepare the genocides. They try to experiment how it can be done, and they cover it. Even the preparations are undercover. You are going to see that. They are going to tell you. And then you are going to see how much human beings suffer. By the way, there is a book I will possibly encourage you to look for, those of you who comprehend French. The title is L'horreur qui nous présente au visage. It was written by French journalists who were able to penetrate and see the actual torture, where they were teaching young men and a few women how to do a genocide and how to kill people. And they were teaching them how to torture to death people. They will show you how the women who are killed, the children, and the other things. Those things will appeal to your emotions and to your consciences. But please, be patient and listen. Sometimes when you get a shock, you don't be able to bear to the end. Sometimes some people get broken in the course of visit. Their consciences, their emotions stop them from bearing, from enduring to the end of the visit. So I will encourage you to go through, but at the same time, engage, make the analysis, and that is going to help you in the planning to prevent evils into this world. You see the extent to which a human being gets less human by doing what they did into this country. And you know, we have to bear such a kind of pain in our emotional pain, to be able to go through that physically, to see the actual dead bodies, to see the process, and of getting even to build those memorials from the bodies all over, and it's painful. But we want you to be able to understand that, so that we can walk together into the healing of this world. This is what I'm calling analysis, diagnosis, in order to know exactly what you are dealing with, whether you are dealing with violence, when you are stopping violence, when you are creating policies, when you are engaging societies, not being like we were in Rwanda. And if there are people to learn from, it's us. If this happened to us, it should happen to any human being again. And it's us to stop it. So I really want to encourage you to bear it, but that will give you the ability to know where we are coming from and what we are recovering from. See? But it's practically engaging, it's transformational, it's life. Therefore, when we talk about religious motivated, politically motivated, economically motivated in the world, we need to make a diagnosis before we bring about change. You can't change what you don't understand. Most of us religious people, we talk about the ideal, what God wants, what people want, but we don't go into the details to make the diagnosis of the causes of the problem, so that you establish policies to make a difference, you establish the campaign, the teaching that make a change, you put things down to change it and transform it. And it's not only the policy, it's an engagement that we have to undergo. Therefore, you have to know the causes. In Rwanda, in 1959, actually 1957, when the leader of the country was murdered, assassinated in Burundi, they brought the corpse from Burundi, they changed everything. Soon after that, in 1959, there was a persecution. We had the biggest influx of refugees from south to north. Actually, in that time, 59, 60, in the south, we lost over 20,000 people, murdered and thrown into rivers, and others buried alive simply because they were Tutsis, and the persecution and the hatred against Tutsi started in practice in the south and spread all over the country, the burning of homes, especially those people, both Hutus and Tutsis, who were at that time, as the Belgians had established the policy, the artificial tribes. People were chased out of the country, and we had the biggest influx of refugees at that time. So persecution started then. So when I tell you that we have to make an analysis, when we talk about unity and reconciliation, I want you to be able to comparatively not only see Rwanda in that context, but compare Rwanda with other societies where injustice took place, with the enslavement, exploitation. This Rwanda, make Rwanda a case study, but compare it with others in the world today. Because you cannot heal Rwanda and leave others untouched. We have to engage together. So, in 1959, 60, through 70, 73, when the first president was toppled, there was another division in Rwanda. The northerners were actually inflicting pain into the southerners because the toppled president was from the south. Therefore, the northerners, the north of Rwanda, took over and started punishing southerners in Rwanda. So the southerners took a second phase of persecution from the Tutsis. So I'm telling you the story of tragedy. How evil graduates from A to evil B, gets from bad to worse and from worse to worse. So at that time, Rwanda also got another division, regionalism. regional hatred. From the regional hatred, in 1960 to 70, that was the first regime, post-colonial. I'm avoiding to go into the colonial time, but we can make a reference to that. We are not making a reference to the Berlin meeting and the Scrub of Africa divisions, exploitation of Africa divisions, barrier destructions, the kingdoms destroyed. All those, I'm not going into that at this moment because I'm only given 35 minutes. I can't go into that. But all that contributes to the making of the destruction of Rwanda. So, coming now to the actual destruction. 1994, when the genocide took place. In only 100 days, Rwanda lost over 1 million people hacked to death by their neighbors, by the military who were supposed to protect them, by the political leaders who were supposed to plead for them and plan for their future, by some of the priests. You realize that I'm a bishop. I'm talking about priests, religious leaders like us, got involved into the genocide, planned with others the genocide, helped the others for the execution. Some of them, there are some of them who died in the genocide and were executed because they didn't, they were killed because they didn't like it, but they died anyway. So many of them, the crowd, the great numbers of the people at that time were persuaded to have their mind corrupted, and they were part of the world view of the time. So they also participated. In the north, there is a court, the Court of Appeal, whereby over 300 people were murdered in a courtroom, whereby they were supposed to have justice, and they perished there. So I'm trying to tell you the extent of the destruction and the extent of death. As though that was not enough, I want you to be able to consider and think about the number of deaths, the number of injustice, the number of pain inflicted on the human beings. But I also want you to know the loss of Ubuntu. I want you to know the loss of humanity that Rwanda had gone to, the extent of the loss of Ubuntu, the extent of the loss of humanity. We had over 1 million dead, but I want you to see how many more millions were dead as far as Ubuntu, the humanity, the decency is concerned. So when you are healing a society, you don't only heal because of the pain of loss of humans. To be honest with you, I just wanted to give you the background of the horrors of Rwanda. I wanted to give you the truth, the exposure of our pain. I want you to know what Rwanda is achieving is not just a walkover, an easy ride, no. It's not only a political move, no. It can't be. It can't be just political. It can't be a human push, no. There is something more. I want you to understand. I want you to have the grip of what is taking place here. From the colonial time, from the scrub of Africa and the post-colonial regimes, two regimes I shared with you, the leadership, both military, political, religious, was just being moving with the clouds. They were not embedded, grounded, into the mission of redemption and salvation and redemption. They were under the dictation of the waves. But I want you to know, in 1987, not long ago, 1987, RPF, and RPA at that time, with a few young men and women who were in the military wing of that organization, met and discussed the way you are doing it, the way your organization is actually meeting, finding a solution to make peace in the world, to get rid of the violence, religious-based. But I would encourage you not only to stop at the violence from religious organizations, but also see the violence from your societies, social, political. It's part of life. You can't avoid them. It's part of who you are. And for them, these guys, this RPF, who met to see what would be the fate of Rwanda. Because Rwanda is getting from bad to worse, and it was apparently clear to them that it was going into the worst. It was going into the genocide. So they were thinking of what they need to be and to be done, and how to go about it, how to create a solution to the trends of the horrors in Rwanda. They wanted to make sure something happens in order to stop the trends. Rwanda Patriotic Front is the party of the Rwandan. It's a political movement which led to the Rwandan redemption, which is actually in power today, political power, which won the elections. That's what we call Rwanda Patriotic Front. It had also another wing we call Rwanda Patriotic Army. So there were two fronts. One was political, another one was military. And among those military wing, there was led, part of the team was the current president, Kagame, and these were young men, actually, who had quit schools for the redemption of Rwanda. President Kagame quit the university to come and be part of the redemption. So Patriotic Front and Patriotic Front and the Army, both of them were meeting in 87 to see what would they come up with. Resolution 1 was to stop the cause, stop the genocide. 1, 2, establish unity of the people of Rwanda. 3, establish a system, a policy of equal right and equal opportunity for all Rwandese. 4, establish a system, policies that establish justice and security, national security for all Rwandese. And 5th, governance and development. That was then in a meeting in the diaspora, and in 1990 they approached Rwanda with arms because the president who was then in power refused to listen to them. He was saying that Rwanda is like a glass full of water. There was no more room for anybody from outside and the diaspora coming in the country again. So they engaged them, they engaged the war to stop the genocide at that time. 1990, there were already killings, trying to sample how they can do genocide, and persecution was getting worse, so they invaded to liberate the country, and then in 1994, the escalation of the genocide took place, but they stopped the genocide anyway. So, what is so, to this day, something that we still research in Rwanda, those of us who are students of history, we are researching in how did the RPF put the 5 points they discussed in 87 in practice, in the course of war, jumping over the dead bodies of their relatives and establish a policy of unity in practice, whereby those soldiers who were arrested in the battlefield were put backward, treated, and brought back into their ranks and fought together. That was the unique approach ever to happen in the history of the battles. 2, they established a policy of no revenge. At that time, President Kagame, who was leading the army, current president, he was then the chief in the army fighting against the genocide, the perpetration of the genocide, established a policy of no revenge. No revenge. Because he said, we cannot be like them. We cannot do it the way they do it. We don't make a difference. If we do like them, then we have no reason to fight. And it was so amazing, a young man to take such a decision. You are religious, I don't want to make interpretation for you. You will do your own interpretation. So after they stopped the genocide, something else happened, which I want you also to be able to consider in your consideration and analysis and in your assessment. So after they stopped the genocide, by the way, I want you to know, these young men, few as they were, young as they were only having the power of the purpose. I want you to understand this point. These young men and women, they only have the one strongest power. It was the purpose for which they were fighting. The purpose. But to be honest with you, if you compare them with those other armies that were engaging in the battlefield, I will let it to you to compare. There were French who were instructing and helping the former regime, which was perpetrating the genocide. They were French. They were the Congolese. They were the Congolese in the group. There were some other people from Angola who were part of the army they were engaging, and yet they overran all of them because they have the reason, the purpose to fight for the redemption of the Rwandan, to stop the evil. So after they stopped that genocide, after they overthrew that government, there was nothing left in this country. No economy, no leadership. I wish you were there to see what was here. Total destruction, nothing, no money, no banks, nothing functioning, only the army and most of the people in the north and west had been moved out into Congo, into Zaire at that time, the DRC today, they had been moved there into refugee camp. Even part of the population had been taken away. But here these young men were, and the women in the country, stopped the genocide. They had the perpetrators in jail, and they had the survivors of the genocide crying in pain with wounds and disparity. And what do we do next? So what they did was actually to bring about all these broken pieces, and they had what they called the famous Orubiro meetings. They called all the political parties together, the head of the religious organizations. They called all the people, everybody. They could have a sense of advice from, and they had sessions of meetings in the Orubiro, which is the presidential office today. That area, that's what we call Orubiro meetings. That was the president's office. They had meetings there. What do we need to do now? But remember, the points I read to you earlier on, they had discussed it when they were still in the diaspora. The 5 points I read to you, the unity of the people, uniting the people, giving them equal rights, equal opportunities, establishing the policy, do away with the chaos and impunity, or all those things. They had planned how to get rid of them and establish the decency of life they were born to, and develop a united force from the broken pieces, gluing pieces together. Then they introduced them to that meeting to see how they can approach implementation of that vision. So what they came up with, one, is to have a government of the national unity. Include everybody, include all the parties into the government. National unity. 1. 2, have a new constitution, a Rwandan constitution, a constitution which takes care of the needs of the people of Rwanda, a constitution which takes care of the values of the people of Rwanda, a constitution which takes care of the dignity and the destiny of Rwanda and the Rwandese, a constitution which involves the Rwandese into its own destiny, and a constitution which governs the governance of the nation and how to protect the policies that I have mentioned to you. In order to do that, they also realized that Rwanda needed an institution which was going to help into the implementation of the policies. And one of the established one is the Unity and Reconciliation, of which I was blessed. I was honored to be its president for 11 years, until it was promoted into a ministry of unity in the Rwandan government. So they put up a commission called Unity and Reconciliation Commission. And they gave it the mandate to do the following things: preparing and coordinating the national programs for the promotion of the national unity and reconciliation. 2, putting in place and developing ways and means to restore, consolidate unity and reconciliation among Rwandans. 3, educate, mobilize the population on matters relating to national unity and reconciliation. 4, carrying out research. I would implore you, sir, that with your organization of good people, committed people, you have to do a research on us, because we are a changing people. The world is changing so rapidly. What happened 5 years ago today may not be appealing today. You need to do a research on this world today. Our world is complicated, sophisticated, and changing rapidly. So they put her in charge of gave us the responsibility of keep researching and organizing debates, listening to people, listening to the horrors, listening to the pain, sometimes cry with people, the guilt, the levels of guilty conscience. Disseminating ideas, making publications relating to peace, national unity, and reconciliation. Five is making proposals on measures that eradicate the divisions among Rwandans and reinforce the national unity and reconciliation. You know, the unity and reconciliation was making proposals to other government organs, connecting information to different organs of the government so that all together, every one of us was in charge of promoting unity in their own forms, in their own responsibilities. We were under the coordination of that source, sharing that information so that everybody promotes unity and reconciliation. And denounce, expose acts, writings, utterances intended to promote any kind of discrimination, intolerance, or xenophobia, anything that will promote, bring about again that sense of division in a country. And making, of course, annual reports to the government and the related organization, to the parliament, to the Senate, so that they know the rate at which the growth and the development of the unity is growing into. And the lastly is to make public institutions and leaders, political leaders, organizations, how much are they complying to the principles of unity and reconciliation? But I want you to know, my brothers and sisters, the most challenging duty that we went through and we still go through is engaging healing in the case of the hurt. Our people were hurt to the core. We still have members of the society who lost members, women who lost their children, their husbands, men who lost their families and are left standing alone. We have so much pain, and also at the same time, if you get a scale, you put the pain we have for the loss of our human beings, and you get another side on the scale, the guilty conscience, and when you measure both, they sometimes balance. We have members of this society who have seen people hacked to death and have not been able, to this day, to come forward and say, we are very sorry, we got this, we got involved into this. They have not been able to overcome that heavy burden of the guilt. And we have people today who are still struggling with that amount of pain. But what is amazing, with the work of unity and reconciliation in this country, although we struggle to get over it, we have realized that we need to get together, we need to be united to make a nation again. I know, as many Rwandese know, I feel as many Rwandese feel today, nobody cannot do it for us. Broken as we were, broken as still we feel, the losses still we feel, the pain still we feel, we know that our future, our recovery, the repair of our social fabric, the recapture of our Ubuntu, our decency, the repair, the engagement, the development of our nation, our economy, our dignity as a people, our national struggles and the development cannot be done for us anymore. Nobody will understand our context. You know, he comes from a neighborhood. You know, Ethiopia. And you are the closest. This is the closest. She heard about our story, but she cannot feel it the way I feel it. Isn't it? Is that the truth? You know, she has seen it. You know, some of our dead bodies, the dead bodies of our brothers and sisters floated into Lake Victoria in her area, and there was some time they were not hesitating to eat fish because the fish was feeding on the bodies of our people. So they have had the stink, they had the share of the stink of our dead bodies there. But yet they cannot feel it the way we feel it. Therefore, we have the responsibility to work hard to make this nation a nation again. And it's not only make it survive, it has to develop. It has to do well, and it's not only a feeling, it's a reality. We have to make it a reality. The economy has to grow, the development has to grow. Although we experienced the stinking and the dirt, and we had no water, we had no roads, we had nothing. We had to get things going and get moving and get clean anyway. And it's not only the cleanliness on the road, but it has to be the cleanness here. Our cleanliness has to be here, whereby we see our brothers and sisters. By the way, we now have, we were already working on unity and reconciliation. Today, we are working on being Rwandan. Period. We are Rwandan. We want our children to be free from the guilty conscience of what their fathers did to their brothers and sisters and neighbors. We don't want to associate these children from the guilt of their parents. We want them released. And we don't want the survivors of the genocide to remain stigmatized and to remain into the groans of the loss. We want them to be healed and be part of the development of the nation. To be honest with you, we do appreciate your presence in this country. Ambassador, we are so grateful, and all of you, we are grateful for having come to Rwanda to visit with us, to see our condition of living, to see from where we are growing from, to see from which we are heading from, and all of those help us and encourage us to know that there are brothers and sisters in the world who care and love us. Please, I implore you, God did not call you to make this organization, great as it is, to joke or to make a joke with it. Go and redeem the world. Thank you for coming to Rwanda.